So today's podcast is going to be with my very good friend Tom. I was really looking for, when I decided I was going to do these podcasts, he was one of the top names on my list. I mean, today we've been talking about a number of things, but mainly it's been about football, which is something that I think a lot of people enjoy. But I want to get Tom on at least 3-4 times and talk to him and just really rack his brain really with how he's feeling about so many different topics, because he's a very knowledgeable man and also I love his music taste. So starting us off, he's picked an absolute tune that we're just going to play in its full. It's a really beautiful song, and then afterwards Tom will explain to you everything about it and what it means to him. Anyway, sit back, enjoy. So I obviously can't play the song in the video, because if I did, then a lot of artists would be pretty annoyed with me. So what I've done is I've put a little link at the bottom, and you can listen to the song either now or you can listen to the song when it's finished. That's completely up to you, but we're just going to jump straight in. Enjoy. Okay. So, Tom, you picked a song for us to listen to.
Yeah.
Start. Why did you pick that song?
It was a bit of a tough choice when you said I had to pick a song, because I've got quite a varied music taste, as you know. When you think about songs that sort of, I think we had a discussion about music before. We've had plenty, and I think one of the important things about that song is that it activates something within me. Like, when you get goosebumps and you listen to music, it's something on a higher level for me. I don't want to go into all that sort of hippie bullshit, but it is sort of like it's a pathway for me to a bit of me that I wouldn't usually access, if that makes sense. So when I hear that song, it makes me sort of think about things that I wouldn't normally consider. I can't remember who it was. I think it was someone in Rolling Stone magazine said the song is the atheist's anthem.
Yeah.
It's the atheist theme tune. Obviously, given the song, do you want me to say what the song is, by the way? Do you want to?
You can do, yeah. I mean, we've listened to it, so.
Right, okay. Well, obviously, with it being "I'll Follow You Into the Dark," it's a song about, it's effectively a song about dying. And what I think is beautiful about it doesn't paint a rosy picture. It doesn't say, everything's going to be fine. But at the same time, yes, it does, because he says it's nothing to fear. It's just a natural step. And the idea that you would take that step and you're not by yourself, I think is a wonderful picture to paint. And it takes a subject which, many songs touch on, but I think a lot of them do it superficially. And to sing about something like that is just, for me, it's perfect. It's the perfect song, because there's an element of sadness, but there's happiness in there as well. There's mystery, there's angst, there's a lot going on in that song, which, depending on how you're feeling, you can listen to that song when you're in a really good mood and it can make you feel even happier. And sometimes, it can bring you up when you're sad, but it can also just, sort of settle you down. I find it a very calming song. And I just think a song that does that to you on so many levels, I think it sort of trumps a lot of the other songs that maybe I would have picked.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm a huge Linkin Park fan, and obviously with what happened to Chester Bennington, it was hard not to pick some of his music, because he has a great range of songs, and
definitely.
I was heartbroken when he passed away, and I think it's his music like that for me is very important. And I think a lot of people here, they listen to sort of Linkin Park and listen to that sort of genre, and they just see it as sort of teen angsty music, like anger, and it wasn't. And you listen to his lyrics, and you sort of listen to the conversations he has, and him and Mike Shinoda and all that, they had a great relationship, but his music was, for me, it shaped me as a young man.
Yeah.
Because I could relate to it so much, and then coming back to Death Cab for Cutie, I think as an atheist, I can relate to what that song's about, because it fits in with what I believe, but it's sort of in a way. I mean, being an atheist, people think, oh, you chill about it, you're so confirmed in what happened, but it doesn't make it any less scary. It doesn't make death any less scary. It doesn't make that grip that you have on life any less important. But I think it's just that song for me. Puts me in a good place. It just makes me feel calm and settled, and it's just I just think it's an absolute belter of a track.
Wow. And I think that's what sets you apart, I think, from most people, is that I asked you to pick a song, obviously. Yeah. And you genuinely sat and thought about it and been like, actually, what am I going to pick? Because your music taste is, like you said, so varied that you've actually had to take time out and be like, oh shit, what am I going to pick?
Yeah, I mean, that's that album, Everything in Transit by Jack's Mannequin. I mean, that's a fantastic album, and that deals with some issues as well that obviously Andrew was going through at the time. And again, a lot of the album speaks to me, and obviously I can't share his experiences, but it's an album that it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of comfort and happiness to sadness and pain and struggle, and at no point does that album differ. It doesn't veer off wildly like some albums just have tracks thrown in for the sake of it. And I think that because it tells a story as well, because it's in order, that for me, that was under consideration. And I think you could have picked any song off the album. You could have picked any song off the album for me, but that's the one. So that was a good memory for me as well. I remember listening to that in your car when I came to visit you in Alec. We had that on in the car on the way back to your house, and that was the first time I properly sat and listened to the whole album, because we had a few songs that you sent me at Ynyr, but that was the first time I listened to it, and went back home, got home and downloaded it straight. I think we got to Ynyr, I downloaded it straight away.
That's it, isn't it?
So yeah,
it's one of them, like, it's just a belter, to be fair.
No, it is. It's an absolute top one.
It's amazing. So
recommend it to anyone who's listening.
Yeah. I think I've still got it. Look, on CD. Not that CDs are used anymore, but it's still in there. I can see it.
Oh, good stuff.
So, we'll talk about how we know each other. So, how do you can start. How do you know me?
I know you because I met you at university all those years ago. Christ alive. 11 years ago.
11 years, yeah.
Was it 2007, 2000? I know it would have been 12 years ago, because we started in 2007, didn't we?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, we did, because City were promoted at the end of... Yeah, so we're in 2007, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so we met then, didn't we? Obviously, we made sort of mutual friends. But we met on the sort of away day, didn't we? That we had that sort of taster.
Yeah, it was strange, that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a really thing, and if you recall, I slept in that morning and held up the entire day.
Didn't we share a room as well?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we share a room then?
Yeah, we did, and I think you said, I'm going to go. I'll go. I think I said to you, I'm like 5 seconds behind you, mate. I'll just work myself up. And then as soon as that door shut, I fell back asleep again. That's not changed. That's, sleep is still a big part of my life. If I can get it. But I think, no, and then obviously we stayed in contact over summer, didn't we, as we decided what we were doing. And I think when I got my place, I thought, brilliant. And the first thing you think of is, you think, oh, Christ, I've got to start where I'm going to live, I've got to start this, that, and the other. And then it was sort of like, oh, I've done the bit, I've already made friends.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big monkey off my back, because my mum was saying to me, what are you going to do out with your friends? And I've already got mates down there, it's fine. And she was like, really? Yeah, fine. Okay. So that was like real sort of real booster for me. And then obviously we met up on the first day. I don't know if do you remember the first, we went to the student union bar.
Yep.
Afternoon, we all met up. And a bloke burst in, dead angry, do you remember?
Yeah.
And he was ranting and raving about something. He goes, watch out, I can't say the word. But he began with P and it rhymed with tacky. And he said, we're going to get you, watch out, freshers. And we all sort of sat there with beers, like looking at this guy as he was dragged out, and we went, yeah, anyway, so what we're doing, and just carried on talking as if it hadn't even come in, and it was brilliant. And everyone just on that unifying moment of like, that was quality. That's when you knew it was going to be a good 3 years. It was like,
it was just surreal.
It was surreal, and you just thinking, this is what it's going to be like, then bring it on. Do you know what I mean? And we shared, we both did media, didn't we? And
yeah.
I know you did journalism, I did creative writing, and sitting in the media, like that first one we went to, we ended up getting drunk off the free wine. And I sat at the back, and you had an absolute cracker of a moment when you laughed at what was he called? Oh, I don't know what he was called anyway. It was a footnote in educational history, but he made a point. He was making a point about globalization and the broadening out of big companies, and he tried to say a word. I think he tried to say something like McDonald'sization.
Yeah.
Because he had a speech impediment, he sort of slurred it, and let's say a bottle and a half of red wine came out here, and all you could hear was "ha!" sort of across the hall. Like everyone was mortified, and I was just like, it was great. And then that was sort of like, fair play to him. He didn't stop his legs.
No. I mean, we were drunk. We'll blame it on that.
I think I remember. I think we went out that night as well. And I don't think I've ever been so ill the next day. That's one and only time at uni I think I felt proper rough the next day. And I think
100% sure that I've got a picture after that. I think you went out to the SU with Matt, our other friend, and I went and watched the NFL or something up at the Polar Bear. It's not called that anymore. But
it's changed now, yeah.
And I remember I was walking back home, and you and Matt were just sat down outside the
That's right, yeah.
And Matt was just you were drunk, but Matt just couldn't stand up. He was just really struck. I was like, fuck, better get him home.
He hadn't had 2 bottles of wine either. He only started when we went to the student union. He pounded it hard.
Oh, it's mad.
So I mean, we've known each other a long time. When you think about 12 years, I mean, most marriages don't last 12 years these days.
They last 12 weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, it's brilliant, and we went to prom together and not together.
I got what you meant.
I know you will, but people listening, mate. People can be so hard. So, but we did, and we've had some great chats. Nights out talking and stuff, and we had great nights out, and we had a lot in common. And I think the people that we live with as well, I think sort of boosted that as well, because we had a nice variety when you think about the people that came and went that we lived with. In the second year, Will went, Sky came, then we had Will and we had Keeley as well, and I think it was just such a. I don't know, obviously there were some arguments at some point, but there was bound to be. There was always going to be. People were going to clash when you're in a tight space.
Yeah.
On it, but I think overall you could rate the experience as amazing. The best years of my life. Sort of wish I could wasted them with a girl that I didn't end up here with, but that's probably gonna that'll be one thing I'd go back and change. But it's say la vie, isn't it? You're gonna move on.
But what I will say about that, I'll just add a little bit to that, because obviously I think it's important. Yes, you might feel that that's time that you wasted, but actually it's what you needed, because when you look at your life now and the person that you're with, and you realise how compatible you are, and how good you are together, and you've got a beautiful wife and a lovely child, so it's you needed the not shit, but you needed the rubbish parts, the ones that weren't going to last, just to make sure that when you did get it right, you knew what was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's the saying? It's not the path you've trodden; it's the path you're walking towards, or something. It's something along those lines. I know exactly what you mean, and you've got to. I always use experiences to shape where I'm going. Maybe I won't make that mistake again, and I can't now. I'm married to a late mother. But I think it's but obviously it's finding someone that And I think with that as well, I can look back now. I honestly wasn't that happy. And I don't think I was brave enough. I don't think I was brave enough after all that time to really maybe do the right thing. And now I think if I was placed in the same situation, if I was me 10 years ago, I would have made a different decision because, you know, like you say, you mature in that time and you learn. And I think, you know, but like you said, it's led me to where I am now, and, you know, I wouldn't change where I am now for anything. So, but going back to university, you know, those years were fantastic, weren't they? I mean, they were just brilliant. And one of the things we're going to talk about, football, you know, that was a very central part of it, really, wasn't it? When you think about playing and watching, you know.
Definitely.
No,
when I think back at my time at uni, like, not academically, because I don't think you ever look back at it academically.
No, you don't, do you? No.
Like, I think they do now. I think a lot of kids do, because there's a lot more money involved and there's a lot more pressure involved. But like,
there's a lot more stake, isn't there? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I think when I look back at it, I think it's the times that people don't see, like the times when you say, like, me and you are staying up till like 3 o'clock in the morning just talking about football.
Yeah.
You know, or like playing Football Manager, or watching you play Football Manager, or, you know, like, or just genuinely just
playing FIFA and stuff like that. Yeah.
And those times are actually like invaluable, because it's like you say, like, so much goes on in this little bubble that you're in. It's the times when you can actually just take a breather and speak to your friends and kind of like just spend time with them, that you really look back on and you think, God, that was good. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And I know that things like that are important, I think, as well. Like, I know that I always remember that. I'll be honest with you, I didn't understand it at the time, and it wasn't something that I wanted to ask you about because I didn't know what the significance of it was. Yeah. But you used to go out a lot to people, didn't you? And like, you'd be out. And so if I'd come home from uni or something, I'd be like, oh, where's Paul? And like, Nicky or Matt would be like, oh, he's out, he's gone out to so-and-so's house, or, you know, it might be Luke, or it might be Rich, or, you know, or Fletch or someone. And it was just like, oh, okay, fair enough. And like, I always thought of it as I was just going to visit friends. But I think you're right, you need that you need to break out a bit and sort of use that time as sort of, I suppose, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw that as your downtime.
Yeah.
Imagine being in a house with us every day. It can be quite full on. I mean, we're all different characters, but I know, you know, I am quite a full on person to be around, and I know Nicky was, and you know, in our own ways, I suppose it was that special thing. Because when you think about it, the others didn't get out as much to go see other people in those first sort of few months and years. So, no, but I never understood it, and I think looking back now, I totally get it. And I think, you know, I think you did it the right way. I think you spread your friends out across university, which allowed you to get a sort of experiences. Yeah. So, you know, credit to you for that, because I didn't.
I think, like, what I will say about that is, like, obviously it was never like a slight on you or Will or Matt or anything.
We didn't. You know, I can't speak for them, but I never saw it as anything like that at all.
Now, to say I didn't name everybody there, but like, it wasn't a slight on you, because like, I think the relationship I had or still have with like the main core of the people that I still speak to, it was made from those times. It wasn't when we would go out to the SU and get absolutely obliterated on snakebite. It was made from the times where you took time out to spend time to speak to me, or vice versa, or, you know what I mean? And that's why I think when we all left university, because you've got to bear in mind, our friendship group at university was quite big.
Yeah, it was.
Like, it was the same names all the time, same places, we did the same things all the time, with the same people.
Yeah.
And then, since I've left university, I think I can probably count on one hand the amount of people that I've actually stayed in contact with, truly.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It is one of that's one of the things that does change a lot. And I think university can make you friends for life, but I think other people are more like sort of, I equate it, and it's not flattering comparison, but passengers on a train. You'll sit next to them and you'll chat to them, and you might have something in common, and you'll sit there smiling and joking and stuff. But once they get off that train, they're gone. and that's it. And then and it was nice while it lasted, but you know, they've got you to where you need to be, and then but there's no hard feelings about it. It's just that's just life, you know what I mean? I still think about some of the people that, and I suppose with social media it's easier. I mean, people like John and Fletch and Rich, I don't see them anymore, but I'll occasionally they'll pop up on the newsfeed or something, and Rich will say happy birthday or something like that, and there'll be still little sparks and connections. But I think the people that I made friends with at uni, like yourself, like Matt, to a lesser extent Mickey, I don't really speak to him much anymore, but those kinds of people, I do still speak to, and and Kieran obviously, and Ben, who came late to the party, if you like, they were through them, and Jordan as well. They're still friends I'll have hopefully for the rest of my life, as well as yourself. And I think it's important to hold on to those ones, but not feel aggrieved that the circle has shrunk, because I think, like I said, it's not a harsh thing to say, but it's just they serve the purpose, if that makes sense. They got us through. They got us through uni. Exactly. You know what I mean? They got us there, and it was great. We had some good times. I can't fault it.
Yeah, but now they've gone. You've moved on to that chapter's closed. Do you know what I mean? You've gone on to the next one. You know what I mean?
And so have they. So have they.
Yeah.
So fair play.
So yeah, wow. I think that was really insightful, because I think as well, because the reason why I'm doing this podcast, like I've said to you before, is for people to be educated on normal life things. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And
that's very important.
Yeah, and obviously today we're going to talk about football and stuff. That there, what you've said, is quite insightful to the younger generation that might listen to it, that might think, actually, I'm going to go to uni and I want to go and get laid, I want to go and get drunk, I want to go and do this and I want to go and do that. But now they might look at it a bit differently, and think, actually, maybe I'll take some time out. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely. I hope so. I hope that helps people. I think the younger generation now are really up against it. They are really they put it a lot harder than we had it, and it infuriates me. My dad's one of these people, and he'll say, "Oh, they've got it well easy. They're all entitled and they're all easily offended." And I think, no, they're not. I mean, I look back now, and you think we watched things like South Park, and you think we're not offended by anything. If anything, we're less offended than they were. But what we do now is we don't tolerate the things that they did. So it's not a case of it being offensive, but those people younger than us are actually probably more prone to standing up for stuff they believe in. We've been talking, I'm just using this as an example, the climate change march happened in London. How many years of people our age, been talking about climate change and no one's listened?
Yeah. And
it's taken one day for London to be brought to a standstill, and now everyone's talking about it. And you think, well, they haven't done, they've put that into action. And that generation are a generation of people who act. They're not people who sit and talk and do nothing. They're not afraid. They don't hold consequences. So, but they're going into a world where the expectation on them is much, much higher.
Yeah.
And as you know from teaching kids, and this is my opinion, they're a lot smarter than we were at that age.
Yeah.
Because of the things they're taught and the things that they experience and the way that the education system has shifted, I think they're a lot more clued up. And this idea that they're disconnected and they're attached to technology, I think is a misnomer. I think it's incorrect. I think the technology actually brings them together more. They're more connected than the previous generations were, because of social media, because of they're sociable people. They go out a lot more. They can sit on their Xbox, but they're still talking to people. They're still constantly connected across the world, and it just annoys me that people look down on the generation beneath them as lazy or entitled, because they're going to have to work much harder than the previous ones to get to the level they are. I mean, the house that I live in now, I had to pay, rounding up 200 grand for.
Yeah.
My parents' house that I grew up in cost half that, and it was twice the size. They, you know, I mean, they sit there and say, they'll sit there and say, you know, I've got it easy, I'll play balls. These kids are going to have to graft, but they're not afraid to graft. They're looking to get out into the world, and I think they've got to be credited for that. And I think, you know, like you said, if they can get that downtime at uni, they've got to take it. They've got to take it because they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it when they leave.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree. And I think as well, like you said, it's really insightful. So you should be very proud of yourself. You're good at this shit.
It's something I enjoy doing. You know, you don't often get much of a platform to speak about stuff like this, and it really does. I think it's really important now as well. The way the world's shifting. I mean, we can talk about this another time if we have another.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, no, I think the way that the country looks at the minute, it doesn't anger me. It scares me. It scares me that there are certain things cropping up that, you know, when you hear that saying, you learn from your mistakes. You know, we talked about that earlier. I don't think we have. I honestly don't think we have, and I think we've gone too far the other way. And I look at the world that my daughter's going to grow up in, and I think if I don't speak out against it now, who's going to speak up for her? Because there aren't people doing it. People are either too afraid to say things, or they've gone the other way and they don't care, and they'll just say what they want. And both are as harmful as each other. And right smack bang in the middle are kids like Orla, who are going to grow up, and the kids that I teach, and they're going to grow up and not know where to look, and just, you know, they'll fall into one of the two camps, and that's not what we want to happen. Everyone needs to be well balanced. And I don't think at the minute it is. I think there's a lot of influence from people who perhaps shouldn't have influence. And again, you can thank social media for that as well, because that gives people a platform where they potentially shouldn't have one. And it's changed the way the country is, and, you know, I don't like it. I really don't like it. I think it's, you know, I'd be one to put myself forward to try and change it, but how do you go about doing that? How do you do that as a normal guy?
The thing is about social media, and what I will add to this is, like, so like you say, I think there's great parts of it, like the fact that, like you say, you live in a different part of England than I do, and yeah, it might only be 2 hours away, but, you know, like, we can still connect to each other just by a simple text, you know? And we can still write to each other. If I see a funny video, I can, you know, tag you in it and all that jazz, yeah?
Yeah.
And you can check up on how I'm doing, I can check up on how you're doing, and you get an insight into your friends' lives that, you know, you actually need because you actually care about them. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where you have people that you probably went to school with. In my case, it's always that way. People that I know or knew when I was 13, 14. And they post a lot of negative things, a lot of hate speech as well, and and a lot of, and I think for me, I understand it from my area, from where I'm from, because my area demographic is probably like 99% white. You know what I mean? And if you're not white, you do stick out. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So I understand people being frightened of that, but I feel that from my point of view, like living in Leicester like we did, where being a white person was a minority, you know what I mean? You were surrounded by so many different religions, so many different nationalities, so many different people. And I think that changes your output and, on, you know, on everything really, because you understand people more. And these people that didn't get that opportunity, like, they don't understand it. So my feed is full of, I know they've took them all off now, but a lot of like political rubbish.
It'll be the same thing. I tell you, exactly the same in Hull, because Hull's a white working class northern town, and the one difference, and it's something I'm incredibly proud of. I mean, it voted to leave the EU. It went through all that. It voted as a group. I mean, I didn't, but it voted as a whole to leave. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't tolerate racism and it doesn't tolerate xenophobia. It has a bad rep, and it does, and it rightly did. In the 70s and 80s, it was horrible. And as a kid growing up on the outskirts, it's not nice. It wasn't a nice place. It's much better now, but it's never had any money. And when the fishing industry rolled up and went, it cost us. But the people have always had that ethic of look after your own, look after people. And if you could be from Nigeria and come and live in Hull, and you're from Hull.
Yeah.
There was a fantastic video that went out for the City of Culture, and it said, I'm from Glasgow, but I'm from Hull. I was born in Munich, but I'm from Hull. And it was all these different people, and that embodies the sort of way that it should be for me, that it doesn't matter where you're born. Exactly. It's that you can come to this place and feel right at home. And Hull's a white, like I say, it's a white working class town by default. And going to Leicester, I mean, my mum, she won't mind me saying this, she was mortified. I mean, my mum's very laid back, she's very chilled out. But as we were driving down Narborough Road, and it was like, mosque, Islam supermarket, mosque, Polish supermarket. She turned to my dad and went, oh, John, you can't live here. I was sort of like, Mum, but to her it's frightening, because there's nothing like that in Hull. Yeah. There's one mosque, and there's like a billion churches and synagogues and things like that, and so the sort of Muslim culture, or I mean, we have Polish people, we have sort of immigrants and Romanians and things, but they don't dominate like they do in Leicester. It's not a multicultural city, and I agree with you. I think I was probably a little bit sheltered from that, from where I was, and so putting me in that situation. And as you know, my first roommates, I was the only white guy in my flat. The other four were Sikhs. They were cracking blokes. They were amazing to live with, because it was such a culture shock for me, and they were so friendly, and I know you met them a few times, and they were so friendly, so welcoming. They were always wanting to talk. I think one of them was from near you, wasn't he? He was from Birmingham. I think he was one of them was a Geordie, and the two of them from Birmingham. One was from London, I think, and they were cracking lads, and I think actually that did me the world of good, because what they taught me, what I learned from them, was, they didn't care what I was. They didn't care that I was white. They didn't make me feel any different to how they treated each other. Yeah. And I just thought, what an example. And going out into Leicester, and of course I stayed on, lived in Leicester for another 2 years, and managed the Western. And I think the only problems I ever encountered were from English people. They were the ones that had the issues. Nobody else cared. Everyone else integrated just fine, and they were saying they can't fit, they don't belong here. And you think, yeah, but you'll go to a takeaway. They're walking around wearing jeans. They're walking around doing this. They'd integrated just fine. It's you that's not accepting it. It's you that can't adjust. Yeah. And I think as a whole, that's been magnified. Now you look at the whole country, and you've got this, thankfully, still a minority of people who cannot accept that we're not a white nation, we're not a Christian nation. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the last census, do you know what the biggest religion was in the UK? The belief system.
I don't.
Atheism, or non-belief, was actually the largest thing that people put forward as their belief system. And that was, I think it was at something like 59-60%. So nearly 2/3 of this country now is atheist. So when they say things like this is a white Christian country, it's bollocks. It's not. People can't stand it. And and I think these people that knock on religion as well. I've said it a few times. I'm an atheist, so I don't go around knocking other religions. It's not for me to say what people should believe in. It's not for me to dictate where those people should go. And I think it's important to respect people's choices. And I think if you go into those arguments with your own mindset and you're not willing to change it and you're not willing to move, it can be very costly. Yeah. It can be very. You're suddenly living in this echo chamber, and the only people you listen to are the people that agree with you, and that's the problem that's happened, because these people that talk, your people like your Tommy Robinsons and your Carl Benjamin, they only hang around people that listen to them, and then that tells them that they're right, because other people think like that. They're not listening to everybody else. Yeah. And the result is, I mean, he's running for Member of Parliament in Europe. I don't want him representing my country. No. No way. But that's the situation we're in, and that is why, it's that I want to change. I don't want people like that running. But then again, I say I don't want it. It's up to me, and it's not about what I want. But I think as a country, I can't see that being what the UK wants.
No, I agree. I tend to agree. I mean, like you said, like you're obviously going to get the people that do want that, and they're how we live. You know, they're well entitled to think like that, and that's fine by them. But the things I don't like about it is the fact that if you then question them on it and say, actually, this is ignorant, you know, like it's racism and it's this, they will instantly throw it back in your face and just say, oh, it's freedom of speech.
Paul, nothing gets my goat more than that. And you know, I think the whole freedom of speech thing is, it's gone too far. It's gone too far, and I think people have said it. It's a sort of, they say it as a sort of thing. Well, I can say what I like. And so yeah, you can, but then you've got to employ common sense. Why would you choose to say something that deliberately hurts somebody else? Why would you want to do that? Why would you make that conscious decision? Because I mean, you look at that Carl Benjamin bloke who was a big internet big mouth, and he said some horrendous stuff. And he just stood down and went, yeah, but it's freedom of speech. Fine, okay. I'm not going to stop you from saying it because you're entitled to say what you like. But don't be surprised if you get a milkshake thrown over you, or you get, or you get egged, or you get, a lot of grief because it doesn't protect you from the consequences that follow. And people tend to forget that. They think, well, I can say what I like. Yeah, you can, but you're not going to stop me from biting back. It's not going to happen. And the freedom of speech thing is an interesting problem, and I say it's a problem because I don't think it's being used properly. I think it's being used as a weapon as opposed to what it was designed to do, which was to give people the right to speak. And you've got to allow, I mean, who do you give freedom of speech to? Where do you draw the line? Are you allowed to have a paedophile podcast on how to catch kids? But that's freedom of speech. And are you allowed to have, can you give cannibals top tips on how to cook people? You've got to say at some point, right, okay. And when you bring that line back, and some of the things that Carl Benjamin said about, I wouldn't rape you and you just think, no, you've got to stop. You've got to stop because you're exposing things like that to people who shouldn't be exposed to it. That's out there in the world now. 7-year-old, he doesn't think, and when you're given a platform, you're privileged to have a platform to speak on. And freedom of speech is the right to speak. It's not a right to a platform. And I think Facebook have done well by denying these people a platform. You're not entitled to be heard. You're entitled to speak, but what you say isn't entitled to be heard by anyone else. And I think they've got to be tougher on it. They've got to be tougher, and it's common sense. Yeah. It's because Big Dave from the pub agrees doesn't mean that the rest of the United Kingdom needs to hear it. Those thoughts are best kept either in your head or within the safety of your own home. They don't need to be out there in public. And also, I didn't fucking ask you, Dave. I don't want your opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one asked you. No one asked you for your opinion on Brexit. No one asked you for your opinion on Muslim rape gangs. But there you are. You're spouting it anyway. And it just ends up being bullshit. It must ends up being bullshit. I mean, I've spent a bit of time fact-checking this stuff, and it's nearly always wrong. It's false. But then they'll turn around and say fake news, it's all lies. And you think, give me a break.
Yeah, get a grip.
If this country wanted to, it could shut that down very, very easily. It chooses not to. And I don't know why. I think it has to. Do you want to get onto football?
Right, let's stop it there then, and then we'll get onto football. Right then. So, there's a few things that I want to say before we talk about Hull. Because it is my podcast, so I can do pretty much whatever I want.
You crack on.
So, I look at football now. And I see all these players that are playing for top European clubs. Like you take your Neymars, you take your Lewandowskis. That's just two. We'll stop there, right? Because they're two main ones, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember you sitting down, you're playing Football Manager or something, and you'll start a season off and I'll say, oh, who should I sign? And you'll literally be like, sign Lewandowski, he's playing in Yeah, he's playing in this league, and sign Neymar, he's in Brazil, you won't get a work permit, but send him out on loan, and then eventually you can have him. And at the time, I remember thinking, wow, like, on Football Manager, they were, like, immense.
Yeah.
And like you say, we're going back 10, 12 years, and you look at where they are now, you know, you've got Neymar earning however much he earns.
Yeah.
Lifting the League One championship every year with PSG, winning the shit with Barcelona. You've got Lewandowski, who's just amazing. So, like, your knowledge of football is something that I don't think there's many people that I can sit and have a intellectual conversation about football. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a compliment in there somewhere. I mean, football's been a large part of, you know, my life, and I think one of the things I love about it is watching how, like, the dynamics of football, like how players get better and what sort of what they go through to become those massive players. As you used Lewandowski as an example, I think when Will started going out with Marta and his interest shifted to Polish football, and he spoke about him and said, "Oh yeah, he's all right." And then Marta was like, "Oh yeah, he's okay. You know, he's pretty good. You know, he's very famous in Poland." And I must admit, based on, you know, who he was, I didn't think he'd go on to be a Bayern Munich player. But I think that sort of thing does interest me, that how that transformation that people go through from being a striker at a club like Lech, which Lech is, you know, they're not a big club. I suppose they're the equivalent of like Wolves or sort of your Bournemouths in Poland.
They had their one obligatory season in the sun, didn't they, where they went into the Champions League and all that. But
yeah, and I think, you know, you look at that and the transformation that these players go through, and it just fascinates me, because I think about the standard of football now. When we were growing up, you look at the top players back then, and you had names like, you know, your Paul Scholes, who, you know, was an indomitable midfielder, your David Beckhams, and I think, you know, they weren't anywhere near as good as the players that were at the top of the game. Now, there was when during Hull City's last game, the commentators were talking about who was better. Is it Messi or Pele? And you think, at the time, Pele was an absolute giant. But you look at Lionel Messi and what he's achieved, and they couldn't decide, because on the one hand you've got Pele, who was playing on, you know, didn't have the footballs they have now, the football boots they have now, the pitches weren't as good, probably the level of players weren't that good. So you had the argument maybe that, you know, he was doing well even with all that.
Yeah.
But then you've got but then he went on to win things with Brazil, whereas Messi hasn't won anything with Argentina. But you look at what he's done for Barcelona, you look at the way he plays, he's so dynamic, he's so good. And, you know, how do you make those comparisons? I can't tell you. But it's changed so much football in a relatively short space of time. I mean, like you said, we met 12 years ago. In that space of time, 12 years ago, would you have said Man City would be winning the league?
No way. Yeah.
No. Would you have said, you know, Liverpool weren't in any great shapes? I certainly wouldn't have put. I think Leicester went down to League One in our first year at uni. So I mean, a lot's changed, and you know what I'm going to say? The underlying factor is money.
Yeah.
And one of the things before we get into football, I mean, it's linked, but I think the money is disgusting in football. It really is. You're paying someone. I mean, you're paying someone $500,000 a week in the case of Neymar to play football, to play a game of football. Now there are lads down the park who do it for free. They will put on a shirt and they will do it for free. But no, we're paying $500,000 a week. We're paying him for the privilege of playing for us. No. You're playing for the fans, because if the stadiums were all empty, would he be earning $500,000 a week? Would the game even matter if it wasn't anyone to watch it? And you forget the purpose of football is to entertain. but it shouldn't cost what it costs to watch something that's purely for entertainment purposes. You wouldn't pay the Strictly Come Dancing people $500 a week. I mean, I'd rather scratch my eyes out with a fucking rusty spoon to watch Strictly Come Dancing, but you know, you couldn't pay me $500 a week to watch it. But the fact is that makes a huge difference, and of course the cost of football has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's now being priced out of even at the. I mean, what was the season ticket at Walsall this year for this season?
I think it's about £340, I think.
Right, so you're paying £340 to watch the likes of Rochdale rock up to the best rock. I mean, it's horrible, but it's a knock-on effect because the cost of the Premier League filters down to the league, and now it opens up this gulf where you're looking at Sheffield United and Norwich, who've gone up. They're going to back next season because they're not going to have the money that even Bournemouth have had from accruing in the Premier League. Burnley have had, you know, just the money isn't there, and then you go from the Championship to League One. And you look at Sunderland, everyone thought Sunderland would have smashed through. They unbelievably kept some of the players. I don't want to know what Aidan McGeady's earning in League One. I imagine it's quite a lot of money. But the gulf from League One to the Championship has now opened up. And I imagine League One and League Two are starting to open up now. There's always been quite a lot of fluidity. There hasn't never really been much difference between, say, 7th in League One and about 15th in League Two. Those teams are probably interchangeable. But I think that's starting to drift, and I think Lincoln will find it tougher. They'll probably be expecting to go straight through. I don't think they will. You know, Portsmouth probably expected to walk it. They didn't.
Yeah.
So you know, it takes money now. You've got to have money, and there's not a lot of that going around in terms of people who want to buy into football. And I think we'll see a decline soon. I think the smartest thing they could do is bring a salary cap in, and there'll be people listening to this who are Man City fans and Liverpool fans, and they'll be screaming. But I think if you don't, you're going to lose a lot of the teams.
Yeah,
Bolton Wanderers have dropped. They've gone into administration. Bolton Wanderers, mainstay of the Premier League for donkey's years, administration. Look at the likes of Portsmouth, Bradford. They've all had to go through these financial troubles for no other reasons than they're trying to progress as clubs, but it's costing so much money to do it. I think it's harming the game. It's really having a negative impact. And I don't know what it's going to take, because eventually there'll be someone big that will get into trouble. I mean, if the Sheep Mansour, whatever he's called, he decides to call it a day at Man City, the hell are they going to do then?
Yeah. No,
it's going to take something massive to make the change. Something's going to go. And
I think it's disgusting. Like, I remember once there was a really good interview with. Do you remember Jonathan Woodgate?
Yeah, of course.
And he came out and said something along the lines of, you know, I was at Real Madrid and I was earning $150,000 a week.
Yeah.
And you know, I kept getting injured, blah blah blah, and I was still getting paid. And then the chance came for me to go to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And he was like, and I went there, I took a big wage cut, but I went to Newcastle, and then because of my performances there, I went to Tottenham, and he ended up winning, was it it was the old Carling Cup, it's Carabao Cup now.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And he won 2 of them, and he sat down and he was like, but what am I going to tell my kids or my grandkids when I'm old? Am I going to tell them that I played for Real Madrid and I was on $150,000 a week, and that's why I live in this big mansion? Or am I going to tell them that I scored the winning goal in the Carabao Cup and here's my medal? Do you know what I mean? And that was telling at the time, because it was like a player that could have sat there at Real Madrid and saw out his 5-year deal, not played, and just played reserve games, just sat there, picked up his money, and just retired happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he decided he needed to play, and he did that. But nowadays, you're getting players that don't do that, and then you have the knock-on effect of that when you drop into, say, our leagues, because, again, like you said, the Premier League players, they've got players sitting on the bench that are on $300,000 a week.
Yeah. So I think I think money's gonna. It's just a wrecker. It's just a wrecker, and I think. I mean, Hull, we've announced this season we're not getting a parachute payment next season, so we're really having to reel it in terms of what we can pay, and that's going to hurt us in terms of who we can buy, who we can bring in, and our prospects. And you know, it sounds. I don't want to sound spoiled because we've had a good run. We've had a decent spell in terms of our history. We've had a good little spell in the last decade, but I just think it's a waste. I think that we could have done so much more, and I think, but now we've got to cut, as Nigel Adkins loves to say, we've got to cut our cloth accordingly, and we've got to make sure that we are within our means, because you know we are financially quite stable. We don't rely on our owners to pump money in. We are still running off our own backs. But I think they've said this season the maximum wage they're going to offer players is $10,000 a week. Now, to me, growing up, I couldn't have dreamt that a Hull City player would ever be on $10,000 a week. But that's what we're going to have to do. And in modern times, that's bugger all in the Championship now. Yeah. And if you want to attract players of any decent quality, and you're saying, well, we can only offer you $10,000 a week, well, fine, I'll go to Millwall. They'll offer me 15-20 grand a week. You know, and it's going to happen, and you know, there's not much we can do. But then hopefully, I'm hoping that other clubs like Middlesbrough, like Blackburn, they're going to do the same, because they haven't got mega rich owners either, so they're going to have to sustain themselves in other ways, and hope it'll balance itself out. But I'm not optimistic that's going to happen. I think.
So, as you've touched on it, like, you are a Hull fan, a Hull City fan.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the owner has had his way, was it the Hull Tigers or something?
Oh, don't. Yeah.
So, I think, tell people, and me, really, a little bit of a timeline of when you started supporting Hull.
Yeah.
Where they were, where they were playing, because I think that is important as well. And to where they are now. Okay.
I started following them in 1994. First game was against, I think it was, I want to say, no, Scarborough. Scarborough was the first game. I think it was in the Cup. It was in the LDV Vans Trophy, I think it was called. We got beat 1-0 at home at Boothbury Park, and it wasn't very good. As a little kid, you know, at the time in Hull, there was always Leeds United fans. It was at the time when Leeds United were big European players, and you had Man United, you had Liverpool fans, and there weren't a lot of Hull fans. I was the only one at school. I was the only really one in secondary school. There weren't a lot of them. So I started going along with my dad and my granddad, and you know, it was nice enough. It was sort of like something to do. It became that sort of Saturday afternoon, where are we going today, and we'd go to a few away games and we'd experience where we could, and obviously some of the longer ones, because I was still quite little, couldn't go to. But Boothbury Park, where we used to play, it was a magnificent ground. It was brilliant. It was tatty, it was old, but like most of Hull, it had its charm. It was sort of nice. It fitted in. It was like a giant shed, really, is how I could describe it. The problem that Hull had at the time was, as it is now, was money, and we didn't have enough of it. The owner came in, David Lloyd, who you might know, Jimmy Fame, and a few others came, and it just spiraled out of control. We were trying to, one season we'd be trying to push for the playoffs, the next season we'd be fighting to stay in the Football League. In about it was 1999, we had Warren Joyce, who was a player manager, and he managed to bring in a few players to sort of stabilise, and the old manager left and we were in the shit. We turned up to a game and we were locked out the ground, and we literally had to stand there on the street. All the fans stood there trying to collect money off passers-by with buckets, saying put money in so we could pay the people to unlock the gates and let the team in, and so we could fulfil the fixture. And that season we stayed up from the last, I think it was 2 weeks to go, we stayed up, and I think Scarborough, someone else went down, and I can't remember who it was, forgive me, but they went down and said that was called our Great Escape season.
Yeah.
And then that sort of set the bar. And then when Warren Joyce left, I think it was Jan Molby, former Liverpool, took over, and he was crap. So they got rid of him and they bought Peter Taylor in. And the season they bought Peter Taylor in was when they announced they were building the new stadium, which they wanted to show for FC. We moved in there in 2003. I think we finished 13th. We looked like we were going to push for the playoffs in the end, but we didn't have the legs and we held off. And then the next season we went up second behind. Who did we finish second to? Oh God, some godforsaken place. And then we went to League One, and it was a big step up. But some of the players we brought in were pretty decent. We brought in, Craig Fagan and Ynyr and Ashby and stuff, and I think it was the team that we had. Stuart Elliott was another one. Jason Price. We had some cracking players. Bowes Myhill in goal. And a lot of these names are going to pop up later on. And we won promotion. We finished second behind Luton in League One, and we got promoted. Torquay, that was it. Torquay beat us to the League Two title. Wow. And we went there in the Conference North now. So, they've just been promoted. Sorry,
yeah, they pissed their league this year.
Yeah, as you expect. So we went up to League One, came second in League One, went up to the Championship. That was sort of when we were like, it's a bit tough. This Peter Taylor left about 3 games into the next season because he got a job off from Crystal Palace. So he went off to Crystal Palace, took the on-court with him. Didn't take Junior Lewis. Usually signs Junior Lewis. Didn't sign him that time, did he? So Junior Lewis stayed. And I think we sort of stayed up that season quite comfortable. I think we finished 18th. We did alright. And then after Peter Taylor left, I think Billy Russell took over for a bit. And then Phil Parkinson took over. He just got Colchester promoted to the Championship for, quite impressive, and everyone was quite excited because he was this exciting young manager and stuff. And then he signed John Parkin, and we were sort of like riding earth there, because at the time there were players that everyone was sort of like, we should be going for him. We got John Parkin, and I think, to be fair, he'd scored a few goals, so okay, we got him. And then we nearly got relegated. I think on the last day, Dean Windass scored. We got Dean Windass and Kevin from Bradford on loan from the league below, and he scored the goal that kept us in the Championship against Cardiff. We won 1-0. It was absolutely crackers. And the next season, of course, this was players when we were at uni. And then that season got to the playoff final, and we went up. And we spent a couple of seasons in the Prem, came back down our rack earnestly, and then that was when the Alarms took over, because it turned out that when we came down, we were heavily in the shit. We were in the red massively. Yeah. We were paying players horrendous amounts of money. I think James Bullard at the time had 40 grand a week. Played about 30 games for us. We had the likes of, oh God, I can't even think. I'm trying to think back to who we had at that time. And Kamil Zayati was on about 25, 30 grand a week. There was a lot of dross on a lot of money.
Who was the striker? Was Daniel Kuzan still there?
Yeah, Kuzan was there, but we learned him out. We learned him out in the second half of the season. Giovanni was brilliant, but Stephen Hunt came in from Reading. It was a great signing, but he was about 30, 35 grand a week. We were paying these players a lot of money, and we didn't stay up. And as a consequence of that, the inevitable happened, and we had to start again. We sold off all our squad, started again, and then sort of December time, the Alarms took over and stepped in and said, okay, we'll do it. And for a time, everything was great because we sort of stabilised. Nick Barn came and went as manager. Then we got Steve Bruce in, and that was the catalyst really we needed. They backed Steve Bruce, he got these players in, and we got promoted. And sort of everything looked really rosy, really, and everything was like, great, we can kick on here. We stayed up in the Premier League, we got to the FA Cup final, we qualified for Europe, and it was sort of like, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. Like, as a sort of 10 years ago, standing outside the ground with a bucket in the hand. Yeah. And now we're playing in the Europa League qualifiers. It was like, this is amazing. Me and my brother were pinching ourselves on the way to the stadium.
Yeah.
And then the owner announced that he wanted to globally make Hull City a name, and to do that we needed a short name than we had, which was very confusing because our name's always Hull City. who are officially Hull City AFC. Like a lot of teams, like Walsall. Well, you don't say Walsall FC, you say Walsall, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, it's like that. So he sort of said, right, well, I want to change the name officially so that it won't be Hull City AFC anymore, it'll be Hull Tigers. And that's it, just Hull Tigers. And he said, he came up with this claptrap that, well, we've always been the Tigers. Yeah, we've always been the Tigers, but we've never had it as our name, it's our nickname. And he didn't differentiate between that. And he said, well, if I market it as Hull Tigers, in China and India, where the tiger is sort of this revered creature, it will get us more revenue. So you could sort of see the reasoning behind it, but you sort of think, well, if we're in the Premier League, that's your selling point. Yeah. That's where your money's going to come from, and your global franchise is built in the Premier League. So someone like Bournemouth will probably be made aware to someone living in Papua New Guinea because they're playing in the Premier League. Yeah. No one would have heard of them. So changing our name to Hull Tigers, apart from being the only club in the world with the most ridiculous name, wouldn't have actually made any difference really. It wouldn't have changed anything revenue wise. People weren't going to invest in us just because the name had changed. They want to invest in clubs that are successful. And he spent all his energy trying to get this name changed. It was rejected by the FA, it was rejected by the fans. Then he turned on the fans. And he's one of the chants at Hull City's been City till I die. It's always been, every club has it. Every club has it. Chant. And he turned around and said, well, you can die when you want. It's not my problem. Leave it for the real fans. And everyone went, right, okay. And that's when the protest started. And then he tried to change the name again, and it was rejected again. So he said, right, if it's rejected again, I'll put the club up for sale in 24 hours. I'll be gone. And I'll sell it for £1 or give it away if I can. 5 years on, it's still up for sale. He hasn't gone, and he hasn't sold it. What he has done is he's milked millions and millions and millions out of the club. Because all that money that we went, and then we unexpectedly, don't forget, got promoted a third time under Steve Bruce, and we went back to the Premier League, and there was a famous picture, I don't know if you saw it, of our pre-season, of the lads on pre-season, and it was like team photo, and there was 13 players in it. Like, you don't go into a Premier League season with 13 players, and you don't go into a Premier League season with 13 players with Will Keane up front. I mean, it was like insane, and then we won, and then we beat Leicester, who just won the league. So it was sort of like that sort of spirit of camaraderie pulled the players together. And for a lot, I mean, there was some horrendous match. 7-1 we lost to Tottenham last day, 6-1 by Bournemouth. And you just looked at these lads and you just thought, fair play to you. I mean, like lads like Andy Robertson, who we gave away to Liverpool effectively. I know for £8 million, you think that's good. It was a fair price, I think. I'm not going to argue with the price, because in hindsight, at the time, it was probably a fair price for him, a left back. But you just think it could have been so different. That could have been so, if they'd actually tried that year. And Marco Silva came in and he almost kept us up. We only went down with 2-3 games to go, I think. We were in it for quite some time. He pulled it back up, and we got to the League Cup semi-final. We beat Man U, and they won on away goals, I think. But we'd had it, and then. As you know, you're a fan of sort of some of the continental football. We got Leonid Slutsky in as our manager, and I was quite excited by that because I like him. I think he's a ledge. I think he's brilliant. Yeah. He was a real charismatic guy. He was a clever bloke in terms of football, and they just didn't really back him that well. We got this bloke in called Lee Darnborough, who, if anyone listens to this as a Norwich or a Burnley fan, will know exactly who Lee Darnborough is. And he's like a director of football, but he's a head of recruitment. The players that he brought in, and this has never been official, but I noticed that a lot of the players that we signed are players that have had some sort of major injury. So you look at the sort of players that make up our team, a lot of them have been cropped quite badly. Now, we signed Reece Burt from West Ham this season for something like 500 grand. Now, he was on the fringes of the West Ham team, and we got for 500 grand, but he's had an injury. We've got players who've had leg breaks. Evandro, Christ almighty, what a player, but spent most of his time here on the injury table. And so,
why were they signed?
I'm sorry?
Why were they signed? Why do you think they were signed if they're coming in with all these injuries and stuff?
Because they're cheap. Because they're cheap. Because Ivandro in the Premier League won't have wanted more than 20 grand a week. He was playing at Porto, but he wasn't in the Porto squad. So he wanted to come over because he knew Marco Silva. Obviously, Marco Silva had been at Estoril in Portugal, and he'd been at some of the big clubs in Portugal, so they knew him. He had a reputation, so they wanted to come and play for him. We got some quality players. I mean, I never thought I'd see Andrea Ranocchia trotting out for Hull City, but that was a hell of a signing. And the likes of Albert Hernandez, and we actually had the spine of a decent team. But the problem was that they just weren't prepared. It was a hastily assembled squad that it hadn't gelled. It was just we made 8 signings on that last day, on the last January transfer window, and they were all like loans, and I think we got a couple of bodies in, but it just wasn't good enough. And now we're at a place where, well, we sort of made a late dart to the playoffs and then fell short as we sort of suspected we would. The problem now is, once again, we have to start from scratch. So we've released all our players pretty much last season. We've got some new ones in. And then this season, we're going to have to do it again, because this time we're not renewing Fraser Campbell's contract for some bizarre reason. We're not renewing, Jared Bowen will be off. They're not going to stand in his way. And they're probably not standing in the way of Kamil Grzycki. So that's 42 goals in the team that are just going to go. Yeah. And then you think, well, they've said they're not going to be spending big money to get new players in. Well, who would you get of that quality? How do you replace 42 goals for nothing? You don't. Yeah. You can't. And I just think where we are now, in terms of where we'd be, I suppose it's contrast, isn't it? Because I think back to where, overall, since I started supporting the club, we're still a lot higher than we were when I first started following City, but it's just that disappointment it's the hope that kills you. It's the sort of disappointment that we could have had a lot more. We could have been a bigger club. Hull's a big city. It needs a good football club, and it isn't being represented properly by the people that own it. They're not doing it justice. So where we are now is just it's a bit sad, really. And I think we'll struggle next season. I really do. I hope we don't. My heart says I really want us to do well. My head says I think we'll end up like Ipswich. You end up using their business model to sign players from League 1 and 2. If you sign League 1 and League 2 players, you end up in League 1 and 2. That's the ace to it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They haven't. Nigel Adkins hasn't signed his contract yet, so for all we know, he's leaving at the end of the month. And they don't seem that bothered. That's the worst thing about it. They don't seem that bothered.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think, like you say, you look at the model that they set up. Like this season started pretty poorly for
We're bottom at Christmas,
and then like. They just went on this run, and before you knew it, they were like 7th, and you were like, where have they come from? Do you know what I mean? And he's got them playing. But I think the one thing, like what you've touched on, is the fact that the ownership is so up in the air.
Yeah.
And it just seems that, like, you get these managers in, and, like, Nigel Adkins is quite a big name, like, he took Southampton, didn't he, to the Prem, and now he managed Sheffield United for a little bit, and didn't do as good, but like, and then he's been with you now, he's got this team sorted, and obviously that your young players, like the guy who scored all the goals, Bowen, he's going to be going, like, because you can't afford to keep him, do you know what I mean? But if you look at all of that, and you think, right, we've got a manager, he probably knows what he wants, offer him a deal, and you're just sitting there now with what, like, the season's been over a couple of weeks, really, for us.
Yeah.
And you haven't got that stability. You don't know what you're going to be going into pre-season. And as a fan, it's the worst thing ever, because you're the one that spends your hard-earned money to go and watch it.
But this will be the third season running. This is the third season running where we don't know what's going to happen. And at some point, you've got to say, right, come on now. Because, I mean, the way the transfer windows are done as well, we're linked with so many players, and none of them ever, transfer gossip's like, it never comes to anything, but you're linked with these players, and you think, actually, we were linked with that Sammy Smodics at Colchester. I mean, actually, he could probably do a job in the Championship. He's quite a good little player.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you see also interested. Wigan, also interested. Bristol City. He's like, oh, forget it then. He's not going to come here. Because what draw have we got? We can't attract players because of where we are in the world. So what we have to do is offer more money. Now, if we can't offer more money, how are we going to compete with these other clubs? So all we have to do is target players that no one else wants. And that's also been the basis of our transfer thing. So we've signed players that are sort of these injured players that no one else would take a chance on. And some of them have paid off. You know, Kevin Stewart's been alright from Liverpool. He was okay.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, Reece Burke's been brilliant. We signed this Yordi device from, where did we get from? AZ Alkmaar, I think, that, like their reserves. And he's turned out to be a pretty solid player. I mean, he makes horrendous mistakes. And then we signed, who was the other one we signed? We signed a striker. We signed someone else at Teller. But there's a lot of players that just, you think, what was the point? Liam Ridgewell we signed on a free, and he was crap. He was terrible. I mean, he was such a nice bloke. And you could tell he had it in him, but the mind was with him, but the body just wasn't. And
he's gone.
He just had no pace whatsoever. He was just so slow, and he just wasn't suited to that level anymore. And you think, if we really need a centre half. We signed Angus McDonald from Barnsley. He wasn't even in Barnsley's first team, and they were in the league below. That's the sort of level, and he's been out since October with a blood clot in his legs. And it turns out that he's got an iron deficiency.
What?
But they signed him, and then he played about 10 games, and we realised that he wasn't very good either. But he got dropped for someone else who wasn't very good. And it just spiraled. It's just get a grip. Either sign players that aren't good enough, but might be good enough in the future.
Yeah.
Or put a bit of money in. I mean, we're going to say, how much would you sell Jared Bowen for? 22 years old, 20 goals, 22 goals from the wing. He's English. How much would you go for, do you think?
Well, you've got to think that they're throwing out mad sums of money at this Grealish guy, you know, from Villa, and they're saying that he's going to be like a £30 million pounder. So he's got to be touching close.
Well, I look at James Maddison that went to Leicester. From where did he come from? Was it Norwich? He was at
Norwich, yeah.
Yeah, and he went for £22 million, and he looks every bit a Premier League player. So. And I think Jared will do really well. So if we accepted any less than 20 million quid, I'd be furious. Yeah. And I'm guaranteeing you that when we next speak and he's gone, I'll be furious, because we won't sell him for 22 million quid. Yeah. We'll sell him for about half that. Because what they see, we got him from Hereford for 10 grand or 50 grand or something like that. They'll see it as, well, look at the profit we've made on him if we sell him for 10.
Yeah.
Or I just think. But that's not the problem. And that money, even if you do sell for 22 million quid, that won't go to Nigel Adkins. That'll be epic.
I know all about that.
Yeah, and you just think, well, how are we gonna push forward? How are we gonna progress? How are we gonna make progress? And you know, look at Ryan Mason. We spent all that money, 13 million quid we spent buying Ryan Mason. He's retired at 26 because his head got caved in.
Yeah, and that was like a freak. It was like a freak accident. Like you see it every game on the pitch. Like they clash heads, and they just get up. They roll around a bit, you know, and it hurts. But they get up and they walk away. And literally, it was just like a nothing challenge, you know. And that's it. His career's gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. He's out, and then just like that, we had to pay his wages while he was getting better. So we had to pay 30, 40 grand a week, whatever he was on, and I imagine he was on quite a lot of money to recover, and then he retired. So it was like we didn't even get him back in some sort of capacity. Yeah. So, and then we lost another right back, Brian Leonard, and he retired at 23 because his legs had gone, or his knee had gone, or something, and that was it. So we lost. We just don't have a good track record, and I think the recruitment's been poor overall. I think it has. I mean, we've had a couple. Jackson Irvine's been alright. He's been quite good. And who's the other one we've got? We've got another lad that we got in. Eric Lehigh. He's been really good as well. So actually, defensive signings we've done all right, but we don't seem to sign. We don't, like the fans will see one thing and then we'll sign someone else. Like our first season back in the Premier League, we signed a goalkeeper. We signed David Marshall. We didn't need another goalkeeper because we already had Alan McGregor. We have Will Mannion, who's the second choice goalkeeper, and we had Jakubovic. We didn't need another goalie. but they went out and spent £3 million on David Marshall. What was the point of that? There's nothing wrong with Alan McGregor.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Jakubowicz, who ended up being number one anyway. So David Marshall ended up being third choice. You say, well, it's a fucking waste of money. Absolute waste of money. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. And then there's this. The fans are just staying away in droves now. When we were in the Premier League, we were selling out 25,000 a game. Every game sell out. Now the stadium's half empty. Literally, I think our average attendance this season was 12,000. And they've introduced this membership scheme, which they see as the future of football. And what it is you pay 21 quid a month, which for what I pay 21 quid a month for my seat, and it's on a monthly basis, but there's no concessions. So basically, they've taken an average, and everyone pays a sort of amount depending on what stand you're in. So even if you're 65 or 70, you'll still pay what I would pay, and if you're a 6-year-old, you'd still pay what I would pay. And that's driven fans away, and they won't shift on that. And they've just put it out now, a vote, to see if we can go back to concessions or stay on the membership scheme. But of course, they've made the membership scheme cheaper than the concessions, so that people will vote for the membership scheme. Do you see what I mean? So they're really devious. They are so sneaky, and they think that they can buy people off, and they can't. And the people of Hull aren't easily swayed. They won't. They're not stupid. They're not going to go, right, well, I'll throw it in my wallet. It doesn't work like that. And they don't understand football. They obviously don't understand football because they know it's not about the money. It's about watching your team. And
so you pay £21 a month.
Yes.
For your seat.
Yes.
And in that time, there could be 3 games, let's say, if you just Tuesday, whatever, and you still pay, you don't have to pay any extra, you just pay £21 for that month.
Yeah.
But then the next month, you might only have 1 home game.
Yeah.
And you still pay 21 quid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I still have to pay in the off-season as well.
What? Wait, so now the season's finished, there's no games, you're still paying £21?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the future of football.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't get over that. That's weird.
It's a cock-up of epic proportions is what it is. They've tried to fiddle with something that they didn't know anything about, and they think they're being edgy and they think they're being avant-garde, and it's not there. It's blown back on them massively because now there's no parachute payment. What the one thing that they could count on to bring money in is the fans, and now they're not coming either. So it works both ways. You can sell the players to make money, but if people out there to watch it, what's the point? If the fans aren't bothered, what's the point? I mean, 12,000 fans in a 25,000 seater stadium looks ridiculous. And you've got the away fans will turn up from like Derby and from Aston Villa and the clubs that have a good away following, and they're out singing us at home because the people just don't care anymore. They can now go to the rugby. Until they went pop, Ferriby, people could go down to Ferriby for a tenner and watch a half-decent standard of football. But, they're not going to, people just choose to spend the money. Money's tight up here. We don't have the money people in London do, so people choose to spend where they want to spend it, and they aren't going to pay to watch in a half-empty stadium with owners that they know don't like them and don't care. So there's the feeling of togetherness that the club had gone. It's been absolutely drained. And the only thing left now is to hope that someone comes in and buys us. But it's not an attractive proposition. And the only good thing about it is we haven't got any debt. We're debt free, and I think that would be the selling point for any prospective buyer. But we've been close to being sold 3 times now, and 3 times they've pulled the plug because they agreed a deal with the people that bought Reading. They agreed a deal and everything. And then they upped the asking price by 20 million quid when it found out how rich they were. He upped the asking price. So he's obviously not that bothered about leaving because he would have just accepted that and gone. And then someone else came in from Saudi Arabia, which would have been brilliant because that's like mega bucks.
Yeah.
And he did it again. And then he claimed that it was because they wanted to develop the land around the stadium and he wanted a slice of that. So he said no. And you just think, well, do you actually want to leave? Because you keep saying you want to leave, but then you're not actually going. So which is it? And then he goes, well, and then they go, well, we've got the club's best interest at heart. We'd never, we're trying to be transparent and honest. It's like, no, you're not. You're clearly not. You are clearly just lying to us, and we've had enough. The fans have just had it. They've gone past anger, and we're now at apathy. We just don't care. We're just not bothered anymore. People just aren't fussed, and it's sad. It's sad because if I get to the point now where I don't care, I mean, if I can't follow Hull, it's not like I'm going to go follow Rochdale or Scunthorpe or Grimsby or someone like that. That's it. That's my club. And if I can't be bothered to go support my club, then what's the point? Do you know what I mean? It's that we're at that stage. It's DEFCON 1 now. It's like people just can't be bothered.
Well, I mean, and that's sad because, like you say, Hull will always be your team the same way Walsall will always be mine. And I've taken a step back from Walsall over the last year, mainly because of money.
Yeah.
In my life, mainly because of the standard, and I couldn't warrant having a season ticket, like I would rather spend my weekends with loved ones, you know what I mean? Like me and Laura would go out on a weekend, we'd go to like travelling, and we'd go and like see people, we'd go to Wales, we'd do this, and I enjoyed that more than going to the football. Yeah. They were still my team, and I still love and care what happens to them, and I still check the scores, and I still go to the odd game, But I think I prioritised the fact that the standard was so bad, the way the club was being run was so bad, that I just gave up, And then, like you say, a ticket at Walsall to pay on the day, if say you ever come up, or come down in this case, and I was like, oh, Tom, let's go and watch a game, you would have to pay £24.
Yeah.
And then, £24 it is to get into Walsall. If we went 10 minutes the other way to Birmingham or to Villa, you could probably get 15 quid tickets.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would they do that, And it's all, again, like you say, it's all money based. They want to take as much money as they can from the people going, because that's their revenue, you know what I mean? Like, they don't care about new people coming in. They don't care about the new breed. Like, the kids that are growing up now that were our age when we started going, won't want to go and watch Hull. They won't want to go and watch Walsall. Do you know what I mean? They'd rather stay at home and stream a game on the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? And claim to be a Man United fan, or claim to be Man City, I'm guessing at the minute. But and that's really sad, because they miss out on all of the fun. Because, like you say, right now, being a Hull fan and a Walsall fan, it's not good, but actually you've got a lot of good memories, do you know what I mean, of times when you followed Hull, and you still do, you know what I mean?
I think that's what's important about football. I think it's the fact that it's not away from all the money of the Premier League, and away from everything like that. It's, you go to places like Scunthorpe, and you go away to places like Yeovil and Notts County, and
fucking hell, Yeovil, that's about a 500-mile trip.
No, yeah, it is quite a bad example, but you go to Bristol Rovers, or you go to Peterborough, and those games are brilliant to go to. They're ace, because it's just pure football. There's no big time Charlies there. It's mostly local players, or players that have knocked around those leagues for a few years, and seeing Adebayo Akin Fenway knock one in, that'll never get old. Like little characters like that. It's like, well, he's not little, is he? But it's like characters like that, and you don't get that further up the leagues, and I wouldn't have minded if we'd have got relegated this season, because I think it's good. It's good to go down. Sometimes you've got to go down to start again. And you look at Lincoln, they're on the rise now, and that's a big city. And if they do well enough, they'll probably get to the Championship at some point. And Walsall have been there, and they'll probably come back at some point. And you think it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun. Once you get into the Premier League, it skews it, because you start to think your club's better than it is. And I said that, I thought when we were in Europe, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't think about going to those cold nights at, you know, Hartlepool and Scarborough and going away to Bradford. I didn't think that had all gone. And actually, shame on me, because I look back now and I miss that a lot. I miss wondering who was going to turn up. It was back in the day when a player had signed for your club. Who the hell's that?
Yeah.
Never heard of him. Right, when I think we signed Andy Holt as a striker, I don't know who that is. Jamie Forrester came in and I was like, you know, he's just absolutely just. But it was part of the mystery. It was part of the fun. We enjoyed it, and you know, I'd go back to those days in an instant if I could. Maybe I won't have to wait very long because I think we'll be down next season anyway. So
no. So if you had to rank the top 3 players that Hull have had over your time following them, who would you pick?
Top 3, in terms of ability or just my favourite?
Your favourite?
Probably, I think Andy Dawson.
Oh, yeah.
Just because he came in League 2 as a left back, diminutive. You wouldn't have thought he was a defender. Played from League 2, went right up to the Premier League, scored a free kick against Everton.
Yeah.
Just a quality, just a Hull City man through and through. Number 2. I think on my list here, I've got a name which will make you smile, but I think I've got Geddo, and that's a really abstract choice. And a lot of Hull City players won't. But I thought he was great. He always played with a smile on his face, and he was just thankful to be out of the Egyptian Premier League and playing somewhere visible. It was a good blow.
It's not just that though as well, probably somewhere safe, because at the time when you signed him from Egypt was not a safe place to be.
No, it wasn't. So yeah, but he came in and scored a few goals. But probably number 2, probably JJ Okocha, because I never ever thought for 1 second that I'd ever see JJ Okocha trotting out at the cake on, like, unbelievable. And even though he was probably about 50, you know, he was just head and shoulders. He played with his hands in his pockets. It was just like, you know, I think we played Colchester at home, and his name was read out, and the Colchester players looked at each other. I was like, not the JJ Okocha, and he absolutely bummed them. He just honestly he never scored, but he just absolutely he couldn't make it up. So that was surreal. But I think number 1, I think a lot of Hull City fans will probably agree, probably Ian Ashby, because he emulated everything about lower league football. He wasn't a particularly good footballer. He wasn't skillful thing, but he was a hell of a midfield general. He absolutely bawled people out for not trying. So the instant he was on the pitch, everybody tried 200 times harder than they probably would have done. He got the best out of everybody. He captained us from League 2 to the Premier League. He stayed in that team in the Premier League. And when we came down, he stayed in the team. And it wasn't until I think he eventually went off to Preston when Phil Brown got suspended, and then he retired that season. And he emulates everything about our club, because he worked hard, he was a grafter, and people could relate to that. He wasn't a fancy pants Dan midfield like you get nowadays. He did his job. And, you know, he scored the goal that got us promoted against Yeovil in League 2, and I think he's got to be my all-time player. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him, having a few beers with him from time to time. He's a local guy, so he knocks around, still lives up here. So yeah, definitely, probably Ash.
Wow. I think it's fun to find out people's favourite players, because, like you say, it's good that you picked 3 names, and JJ Okocha probably being the most famous of all of them globally. Yeah. But like, you picked players that actually started with you when you were at the lowest league and stayed, which is a rarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of players, I mean, the other 2 that made that journey, Bowers Myhill, who was our goalkeeper, and Ryan France, who was a midfielder. They all made the journey up from the lower league to the Premier League, and that was an incredible achievement for them, because they were League 2 players, and they just adapted as they moved up. They just changed the game to suit the team, and you know, there was a reason they weren't dropped or ousted, because they, you know, and my Hull stayed on in the Premier League. I think he's still in the Premier League. He's still at West Brom, isn't he? Is he at Birmingham now?
I think he's at West Brom.
He's still there, so I think he's still kicking about, and and players like that, just you don't see him anymore. I think there's one at Bournemouth, was it Pugh, or was it? There was one of them started with him in League Two, and got promoted. He was there as well. So it's very rare these days, but fair play, fair play to them all.
Yeah. So you've had your 3 best. What about your 3 worst?
Well, Simon Walton, just because he was bloody useless. We got him from where did we get him from? Hartlepool, I think. He was just terrible. He was just absolutely god awful. And he came from Reading. He came from a club that was bigger than ours, and we thought, great, we've got a little loan here, and he was absolutely shit. And then he injured. We signed a left back called Mark Lynch, who was really, really good. Yeah. And he was brilliant. And Simon Walton went in 2-footed on him in training and broke his leg. And just after that, everyone just hated him, and he couldn't stop. He terminated his loan because the fans just turned on him. Because Mark Lynch we finally saw Andy Dawson at that point. Oh, he was a right back, sorry. He didn't have a good right back. And we finally got one, and he crocked him. And Mark Lynch, I think he played one more game for us and was gone. Never the same player again. So we just thought balls to him. Wayne Brown at number 2. You remember big bald Wayne Brown?
I do. Centre half.
Yeah, big centre half. Played for us in the Championship. Wasn't too bad. Played in the Premier League. It's bad when Emil Heskey is banging a hat trick in against you. Wow. And then while he was there, it also came out that he was supporting the BNP. So wasn't very popular.
What?
Yeah, he was sacked soon. Anyway, he was released. I think he went to. Funnily enough, I think he went to Leicester after he left Hull City.
What?
Yeah, I know. Probably number 1, and this is probably harsh because there's a few others, but probably Ibrahim Sonko. Just because that was the second season we were in the Premier League, our 3rd year at uni, and we really needed a centre half, and we brought him in on loan from Stoke. And he wasn't good at Stoke, and no one could understand why he was there, and he was terrible. He didn't contribute absolutely anything. He contributed nothing to our season. And if we'd have signed a better centre half, we'd probably stayed up. Now, we'd have made a better fist of it than we did. Anyway. But he just things like that contribute. But no player really contributed more to us going down, I think, than him. Because, Jan Vennegoor of Hesseling up front wasn't a brilliant signing, but at least he scored a couple of goals. He was just absolutely useless. I don't think he kept a clean sheet in his time at Hull City. I think he was just absolutely terrible. A write-off of the signing. And I think he retired a couple of years later. I don't think after he left Hull, I don't know what happened to him. Presumably he went off to some other country because he wasn't good enough.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
You say you've had some bad ones now.
Oh yeah. Well, we've had a fair share.
But that's the way it is.
Right.
Yeah. What about your favourite goal?
Favourite goal?
Yep. Probably,
well, you were there for it, probably Giovanni against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Just because we were Hull and we weren't supposed to beat Arsenal. And I think that's what Arsenal thought. Like, how dare you come here and play like that? And then obviously we ended up winning because Kuzan went and nodded a winner in. But I think that goal, just for technique, he scored another one against Spurs a week later, and it was from even further out. I think, but the Arsenal one, he just sort of picked up the ball, he looked up, and the technique just killed it. I mean, at the time, Almunia wasn't a bad keeper, and he absolutely swerved it past it. No chance, absolutely no chance. And to do that under pressure, to cut past 2 and slam that in against Arsenal at the Emirates for Hull was brilliant. But he just had such belief in his own ability that it didn't matter. So yeah, that's probably my favourite goal.
Yeah. I remember seeing it, and we were watching it live, and I think it's one of them games, isn't it, where at the time Hull were just in the Premier League, and you were just thinking to yourself, like, they're playing Arsenal. If you can avoid 2-3, 4-0, then that's a success. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not being negative. It's just how it was at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was at the time when Man United were beating everybody, and they were beating them with such ease, and Chelsea and all that. It was just a joke. But like, to score a goal like that at that stadium against that team, which, like you say, had some world-class players in it, you know, and to hold on and, like you say, eventually win the game.
Yeah.
Because that was the season that you had about 35, 38 points, wasn't it, by Christmas?
October, yeah, we did, yeah.
And then
we only won one more game.
And that kept them in the league, though, didn't it? Really, because they went on this barren run. But
yeah, but that was it. That was it. So, you know, that goal for me will be special, and I think even Will, the Arsenal fan that we were with, he stood up and clapped it. It was an unbelievable moment. But
in the time since you've been talking as well, I did look up where Ibrahima Sonko went after you.
Oh yeah.
And he ended up at Ipswich for a year.
All right.
And then he ended up in Turkey, right? For 3 years, in which he made 5 appearances. He retired last year, playing for Harlow Town in the Isthmian League down in Essex.
How old is he now?
He is the fine age of 38.
Jesus Christ. He can't have been that old when he signed for us, then?
No. 2009 apparently, but...
Oh, well. Well, that just shows you, doesn't it? He trot out of Harlow Town. Jesus Christ, he was bad.
Yeah. I just felt like I needed to tell you where he'd gone, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I think, sorry to be a pain, but I think my wife's calling me because I think she's wanting me to cook dinner. So I'm going to ask you your question.
Yeah?
Okay, right. I thought about this. Okay. Now, you may or may not know that I'm an astronomer. I have a telescope on my desk. I have a telescope here. It's not connected. But,
wow.
Yeah, so, all things to do with astronomy and astrology and physics and things. I love it. So my question to you would be, as someone, I don't know, you might be well up on your astrophysics, I don't know, but if, I'm going to ask you a question that I asked my year 2 children. If you could go anywhere in space and see one thing happen, what would it be? Like absolutely anything. Could be something that isn't proven, could be something that you know of that you know, because I think there's something about space that people, I mean, it encourages creativity in people, but I think it's important that people, you know, look at it because it's part of the universe. We're not just part of the planet, we're part of a very, very, very big picture. So if you could go anywhere in the universe and see one thing and choose one thing to look at, maybe something happening, an event or anything, what would it be? Past or present?
Wow. I think what I first want to say is what a great question, because like some of the other questions I've had are like, where do you see yourself in 5 years and shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm having an interview. I think if I could go to space and I could see one thing, fucking hell, I would like to see.
Would it help if I told you my answer to that question?
Yeah, go on then. You start then.
I would want to see, and I don't know how this would work in terms of being able to see it, but I'd want to see a black hole forming.
Right.
Or a star exploding in a black hole. I want to see that process of how something like that is formed.
Yeah.
That'll be, for me, that'll be phenomenal, because it'd be just the whole explosion and it coming in on itself. But I mean, I've asked people like that. One of the kids in my class said he wants to see what's on the other side of the universe, you know, like the edge.
Yeah.
I want to see what's on the other side of the universe. So that's a good question. I couldn't answer because I don't know.
I'd want to say something like, You know, like when you see the Rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
I'd want to go and see that to see how it, like, what it does, do you know what I mean? Because obviously it gravitates around it, doesn't it? I'm not as clued up as you are, you know, I haven't got a telescope. I've got a samurai sword, but not a telescope. But, like, I'd like to see what happens with that, because, you know, like, this is going to sound really silly now, but I think watching Star Trek as a kid, there was, like, one Star Trek where at the start they, like, flew past Saturn, didn't they? And they brushed past it and all the rocks went flying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd love to just be able to look at it and watch it move around. I think it'd be quite therapeutic and relaxing.
Yeah, well, I mean...
that or some kind of explosion, like some...
well, I mean, explosions in space are amazing, because I think it's because they're, like, 1 billion times more powerful than they are of anything happening on Earth, so, you know... but, I mean, the rings of Saturn are beautiful. They are something that a lot of people look at as rudimentary in physics because they're just there, they're part of the planet. But then you look at something like Neptune, which has rings but you can't really see them, and sort of Saturn without rings would just be another gas planet.
Yeah.
The rings around Saturn are beautiful, and the way they're formed is so unique and in our solar system, and the way they look and the way they catch the sun. I mean, if you get them on the right sort of time of year, you get some fantastic shots through the telescope, and you can see them with I mean, if you catch Saturn, if you've got a pair of binoculars, you could look through the binoculars at them, and you could probably make them out just by looking at them with a pair of different binoculars. Yeah, so I can show you where it would be in the sky. There's a fantastic app on Google called Google Sky, and it shows you the positions of all the stars, like what you'll be looking at. So if you hold up your phone, it will match the stars up, and you can click on them, and it'll tell you, or it might be a planet, it might be Jupiter or Mars or something, and you can see what that is. It just tells you where everything is, and like your place within the universe, basically, like what's around you and what you can see. It'll show you where the centre of the Milky Way is based on where you are.
Yeah.
On the planet, sort of thing, which is brilliant. I think I can't get over it. I think it's brilliant little app. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. I'd recommend you have a look at it. It's free, it doesn't cost anything. But yeah, I think it's a really nice choice, that, because I think it's just something that's very peaceful as well, and the way the rings go around Saturn is unique. It's unique to the solar system, and it's a nice thing, I think. It's a nice choice. So, good answer.
Yes. Right then. Well, I'll let you go then, because we've talked for a long time about that. And thank you for chatting to me. And I'll definitely get you back if you want, and you can talk about your hatred of people.
Oh, well, hatred's such a strong word. I like to think of, I mean, I'm happy to talk about things like that. I think we might need a bit more time. Which, having spoken for 2 hours is asking a lot, but we'll schedule something, and we'll definitely.
Sounds good. Thanks for everything, mate.
No, absolutely my pleasure, mate. Anytime.
Cheers. So that was my brief conversation with Tom. Like I said, such a knowledgeable man, really, really smart, and it was just a joy to speak to him. I want him on again. I want to be able to speak to him again as many times as I can, really, because he's just somebody that I love speaking to, somebody that I love spending time with and just hearing everything that he's got to say. But thank you for listening, and there'll be another one very, very soon. Just enjoy yourself, and I'll speak to you all very, 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 very soon.